I'm from Columbia, Missouri. I graduated from Yale in 2012, and I worked as a high-frequency trader on Wall Street. Then I had some health problems, and I had to move back in with my parents. So I taught myself to code, and I started ScaperAPI. ScaperAPI is a web scraping API, so there's a lot of competition with other proxy server providers and those sorts of things. So when I got to 10 customers, it felt like it started to be a real business. That's sort of the number that people online throw around, and I think that's probably true. Scaling from 6 to 7 figures is usually around when you start hiring people, and the really challenging part of that is that you no longer know everything that's happening inside your own business. Sometimes you have to ask people what's going on. That sort of thing is a bit hard to manage after you've been working as a solo founder for a while. But I think ultimately it was a really good thing every time I hired someone because it took so much off my plate. And ultimately, the people that you hire for each individual job should be better at that job than you are. I started thinking about selling my business towards the end of 2019 because I was thinking about going to culinary school, and I knew that I could sell for sort of a life-changing amount of money, so it seemed like the logical choice. I had a few points of data about FE International. One was the founder, Thomas, was on a podcast, Indie Hackers, with Cortland Allen, that I listened to. It's a great podcast, and he really seemed like he knew what he's doing. Then Patrick McKenzie, Patio 11 on the internet, highly recommends them. And also Rob Walling, the host of Startups for the Rest of Us, the podcast, also recommended them. And all three are people that I really respect, so it seemed like the obvious choice at that point. I really had very few expectations going in. I had no idea what sales at this level was like. I kind of expected it to be like $1 million listing. It was much less dramatic, but ultimately we got the result that we wanted. I think it always felt surreal until we actually got people making offers for the amounts. I think in the beginning, FE International is really good at going over valuations with you, what sorts of terms you can expect, what sorts of amounts you can expect. But until there's a real offer on the table, it doesn't really feel real. I think I would be much more organized around internal processes, in particular bookkeeping. I imagine that in a lot of small businesses like ScaperAPI, the bookkeeping process and accounting is just kind of a mess. So I would have hired a bookkeeper much earlier. And they're also, not very expensive. It costs maybe $50 to $100 a month to get a good bookkeeper to log all your expenses. And second, I would have used a CMS from the very beginning instead of coding my website from scratch, because it's much easier for someone else to jump into a WordPress site than to look through your hand-coded website and try to make changes. Currently, I run a newsletter for developers called TLDR at tldrnewsletter.com. It's sort of like Morning Brew or The Skim for tech. And I am also going to culinary school.